They say change is slow, but sometimes it begins with a single step so small, the world doesn't even notice. Yet that step can echo across an entire lifetime. This is the story of a man who changed just one habit, and with it, every part of his world. A story of quiet transformation, born not from miracles, but from the discipline of one small promise kept each day. Welcome back to my channel. His name was Arav, 30 years old, drifting through the kind of life that looked fine on the surface, a job that paid just enough, friends who laughed on weekends, a phone full of unread dreams. Every morning, he woke to the same gray alarm, scrolled through the same blue-lit screen, and told himself the same lie. Tomorrow, I'll start. He wasn't lazy, just lost in the noise. His days felt like copies of the one before, and deep down, he wondered if this was all there was. One evening, after another long, forgettable day, Arav found himself walking home through the rain. Soft rain begins. The streets glowed under streetlights, and in the reflection of a puddle, he caught a glimpse of his own tired face, eyes hollow, shoulders slumped. Something in that reflection unsettled him. He saw not who he was, but who he could have been. Someone braver, sharper, alive. That night, he sat at his desk, opened a blank notebook, and wrote 7 words. Change one thing, do it every day, do it every... He didn't know what that one thing was yet, but he knew he had to begin. The next morning, instead of reaching for his phone, Arav made his bed. It took 2 minutes, maybe less. But when he looked at it, neat, simple, done. He felt a spark of control he hadn't felt in years. So the next day, he did it again. And again. A week later, he started waking up 15 minutes earlier. A month later, he started reading. Just 10 pages before work. Small things, almost invisible to others. But inside him, something began to shift. His friends didn't understand at first. "Bro, it's just making your bed," they laughed. He smiled. He didn't explain. Because for him, it wasn't about the bed. It was about the battle. Every morning, he was winning against the old version of himself that wanted to sleep, delay, forget. That single act was proof that he could change. Slowly, that belief began to bleed into other parts of his life. He started eating better, talking less and listening more, even saying no when he needed to. But change, no matter how pure, always tests you. One day, his company announced layoffs. The air filled with anxiety, whispered names, quiet dread. Arav was one of the names. After 5 years of work, his desk was cleared in minutes. Wind gusts softly. That night, sitting alone in his small apartment, the weight of failure crashed over him. He stared at the same notebook that once held his hope and felt foolish. "What's the point of discipline?" he whispered, "if the world still breaks you?" The room stayed silent. Only the ticking clock replied. He could have stopped there, gone back to his old patterns, his old numbness. But as he sat in that silence, he noticed something. The bed. Still neatly made. Even in chaos, one thing stood firm. His small habit. And for the first time, he realized. That was the point. Life wasn't about control. It was about constancy. About choosing order even when everything else falls apart. That night, he didn't write new goals. He just wrote one word under his old note. Continue. The following weeks were quiet. No job, no rush. Just long days of uncertainty. But every morning, Arav made his bed, read his 10 pages, went for a walk. He started sending out resumes, not in panic but with patience. During those walks, he began observing the world differently. The way light fell on old buildings, the laughter of schoolchildren, the rhythm of life continuing despite struggle. He felt something awaken. Awareness. Gratitude. Presence. One morning, he met an old man at the park bench he usually sat on. The man wore a faded cap and fed the birds with practiced calm. They began talking, about time, about patience, about habit. The old man said, "I used to drink for 30 years. The day I stopped, I didn't promise myself forever. I promised myself one sober sunrise at a time. That's all you ever need. One sunrise." That line stayed with Arav. one sunrise at a time. He started writing again. Thoughts, reflections, lessons. Slowly those pages became essays, and one day he gathered the courage to share one online. It got 10 likes, then 100, then 1,000. People connected to his words, his quiet honesty, his small victories. He wasn't trying to inspire anyone. He was just trying to stay consistent. Yet, without realizing it, that single daily habit, the discipline to begin, had transformed into something far greater. Months passed. He found freelance work writing content, helping others build discipline, routines, and focus. He began waking up before dawn, no longer out of duty but devotion. The same man who once struggled to get out of bed was now teaching others how to rise. His transformation wasn't loud or sudden. It was quiet, persistent, like a seed growing beneath the soil. And when it finally bloomed, it felt inevitable. Years later, when Arav looked back at his old life, it almost felt like someone else's story. He was living with purpose, not perfection. A man molded by small choices, one day at a time. Someone once asked him, "What's the secret to changing your life?" He smiled, the same calm smile the old man once gave him, and replied, "Start with one thing you can control, then never stop showing up." He realized the power wasn't in the habit itself, it was in the person he became through keeping it. The world hadn't changed much, but his inner world had. The discipline that once felt like a burden had become his freedom, and maybe that's the truth we all miss. We wait for motivation to find us, for the big break, the lightning strike. But transformation doesn't arrive with thunder. It whispers through quiet choices, repeated in silence. The morning you wake up early when no one's watching, the day you write even when no one reads, the small act you repeat until it becomes your identity. Because in the end, we don't rise by leaps, we rise by inches, stitched together by consistency. Arav still makes his bed every morning. Not because he has to, but because it reminds him who he is. Someone who once decided to change one habit, and in doing so, changed his entire life. So if you're listening to this and feeling stuck, remember, your future isn't waiting for a grand moment. It's waiting for a small decision. Pick one habit, one promise, one sunrise, and keep showing up, even when no one sees you. Because the day you choose consistency over comfort, that's the day your real transformation begins. If this story touched you, comment below with one word: discipline. Let me know you're ready to begin your change, one small step at a time.